principles that I'm going to share with you just right now, that how to get the most out of this presentation, it is the same in how to get most out of any presentation for the rest of your life. It's how to get the most out of reading a book. I do the same thing. If I'm reading a book, because while I'm reading the book, other things will come to my mind. I always have what I call a capture device. Capture device is to capture my thoughts and ideas and things that I remember. And either a piece of paper, or it's a dictaphone, or my phone if I'm driving, so that I can just record it. So if something comes to your mind, you write it down and you come back. Because if you try to remember that and try to listen to me at the same time, chances are you're going to miss both. A man who chases 2 rabbits catches none. At the end, so what I do that even when I'm meditating. Because it seems like when you try to meditate, that's when the whole world comes to you. How many experience that? You try to quiet down, that's when the whole world tries to remind you everything. And you it's okay. That's like your training wheels. And it's better now. And before, I was writing more things than I'm meditating. More time writing more than meditating. Now, it's the opposite. So, that's how you tame your wandering mind. And then be ready to learn and take notes. If you sit there, if all day all you do is you sit there passively and listen to me, a week from today you're going to remember anywhere from 10 to 20%. The exact same study shows that if you take notes, ask questions, answer questions, basically when you actively participate, like he was asking questions. I love questions because that engages me or the students where they are. But when you if I ask you a question, it's not just for me that I say, hey, please raise your hand and respond, because for you to be engaged in the process so you get the most out of this day. You've already made a commitment to be here. My goal is at the end of the day, when you go, you can tell someone that, yes, this was one of the best days, most profitable days I've spent. But you cannot say that if you're not fully engaged.
Basically, be proactive.
And be proactive, and always be present. Always present. So if I'm asking a question, you're responding. And at the same time, what I find, as I said, I used to travel 48 weeks out of the year. I used to be the #1 speaker and trainer for Tony Robbins. And I find, this is from my own personal research, I find that people remember the most not only when they take notes and ask questions and participate, there's still one other element missing. I find that people remember the most when they do all the things that I just mentioned and have fun while doing it. Would y'all agree with that? Yes? Yeah. Is it okay for the students today? We not only learn something, we have fun too? Is that okay?
Yes. Yes.
All in favor of having fun, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's carried. That's the hardest part for this morning. And as I said, have fun. So, since you said you want to have fun, with that we're going to get started. One more thing that if you really want to get the most out of this presentation today, shut that little voice inside of you that says, I know. I know is the killer of learning. I know is the killer of learning. And sometimes you've met people that they know it all. Nobody enjoys the know-it-all, that you can't even get a word in because they know everything. Before even you say about an opportunity, before you say, oh, been there, done that. And how many of you had the experience that you've read a book or you've listened to a tape or a CD, the second, third, fourth time you found something completely new? It has happened to all of us. And it's not because in the middle of the night the author came and added more just for you. No. In personal development, we have a saying called, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. The teacher will appear. That means the first 3 times, the first 13 times you listen to it and you found something new, is you weren't ready to listen to that. It's not that information wasn't there. So maybe it's the same thing that I'm going to be sharing with you, that you've heard a zillion times. But today, for the first time, you put a new meaning to it, or maybe the way I'm going to share with you, it finally clicks. And you go, crystal clear. And then the beauty of it is that something, when it clicks, it's not just clicks. Because of that, a whole bunch of other things becomes clear. How many of you experienced that? So that is incredible that because of that one little misunderstanding, perhaps now money is clear. Like Aaron was in my program, so I know that he's internalized that concept. That every time he remembers that every time I go to any sales presentation, any kind of seller call, that what I need to make money, and he needs to project what?
Confidence.
Confidence. So until you've internalized it, it's not going to happen in your life.
So what if you're not confident?
Pardon me?
What if you're really
Thank you
not
very much.
confident?
It's a very good question. You cannot, if you're starting out in real estate, and I have done all these years, you will not have the same confidence as I do. So what you simply do is you borrow the confidence of your mentor. And so when you go to a seller and you've never bought a house and you want to say, never say that I buy houses. It's we buy houses. So that it becomes totally true. Because most people, you're honest. She's honest. So that if she's never bought a house and she'll go, and if she say that I buy houses, because she knows that I'm lying, and her own, everything else will just fall apart. But when you say we buy houses, then you and me. Right now I buy 100, she buys 0. That's okay. But together we buy 100 houses, right?
I wouldn't say 0. But
No, I'm just making it just whatever the number is. So if you're starting out, and of course if you bought 1, if you bought 10, then you just, so in anything that you do, you borrow the confidence. So I know is the killer of learning. And let me explain to you what I mean by, and higher definition of I know. How many of you have read the book 7 Habits of the Highly Effective People? Quite a number of you. And those of you who haven't, this is the 100 best business books of all time. This was the number 1. And he's in Salt Lake City and just passed away recently. He's one of my mentors. And the number 1 book of all times. So those of you who've read, if you haven't, you should definitely write down. That's one of the things I'm going to recommend books to read. Your life will change. And how many, those of you that have read the 7 Habits, all right? So I'm going to give you guys $100 if you can tell me the 7 habits in their order. Who can tell me the 7 habits in their order? Oh, you can't.
I forgot most of it.
Huh?
I forgot most of it.
You forgot most of it. So my question is this, that if this is not about been there, done that. First of all, is it a fair assumption on my part that since this is the best of sold million, it's been translated in every language, that anybody in any society in the world, if they were to live their life with the 7 habits, that they're going to have a pretty effective, pretty successful life? Is that a fair assumption?
Yes.
In any language, yes. My question to you is this. What are the chances of your living the 7 habits if you cannot tell me what they are?
No, they get ingrained, and I'm sure I absorbed some of it, but I just cannot spill them out.
And this is exactly my point, that she's very correct. That it's not that you don't live the 7 habits, but if you don't know them cold, you're living them by accident, not by design. And so if you do things by accident, you cannot recreate it. When you do it by design, that when you know money is an idea backed by confidence, every single time you go out there, you first remind yourself, more than anything, I need to project confidence. It has nothing to do with it that you don't have 2 nickels in your pocket to rub together. You can go after a billionaire, and the billionaire in every situation, without exception, this is true. So, for example, you already proven to me your habit number 1 is be proactive. There are hundreds of people that got the invitation, but you guys are in the room that have made the proactive to come here. So again, today's not a course about 7 habits, but my point simply is this, that just because if you say, how many have read the book, and you raise your hand, but you cannot even tell me, my definition of knowing is this, that you must do it. To know and not to do is what?
Not to know.
Not to know. To know and not to do is not to know. So you have to learn, internalize it, the 7 habits, in order to live the 7 habits, in order to have an incredible life of rich with the 7 habits. So before you just come and tell me, I know, think that am I living it? And if you're not living it, then you need to hear it again and again and again. And by the way, don't for a second think that I'm any different than you are sitting there. And that, oh, who am I that to sit here pontificating on you that I know you don't? No. The very same thing happened to me. And it not only happened to me, it happened to me in a more embarrassing way than you. Because I have read his book. I have listened to his tapes. I have listened to his Tony Robbins interviews. I have been to his live seminars multiple times before he passed away. So I have, and all of those things, my first retirement was in Florida, in Tampa. That's where I first retired at the ripe old age of 29. And within 2 months I got bored out of my skull. And I was coming back out, and there was a seminar coming in town, and it was a seminar about the 7 habits. A speaker came into town, wanted to speak about the 7 habits, and I didn't know, so it was a leadership seminar, so I just went there. And one of the first questions he asked is, how many of you read the 7 habits? I raised both hands because I had read more than once. And then I thought, oh, then he asked me, oh, can you tell me the 7 habits? And he held out a $20. Can you tell me the 7 habits in their order? I'll give you the $20. And I'm going, begin, pro, I couldn't. So I'm no different than any of you sitting here. Because the same thing happened to me, but with the one difference. I say, right then and there, I say to myself, I made a commitment that never again I will give this man the opportunity. And he was selling the 7 Habits of Books and Tapes again. I know I have all of those in my library, but I bought them again just so it'd be more painful. So I will learn it this time. Obviously it wasn't the first few times. And right then and there, the lesson is the only mistakes in life are those you never learn from. The only mistakes in life are those you never learn from. And I made a commitment right at that point, and I said, I'm going to learn. And then I made one further commitment. How many of you have children? Or maybe grandchildren? Maybe you guys are lost cause. You're too late. What if you go home and play a game with your children and make them memorize the 7 habits? Will their life be completely different by the time they grow up?
That's a good idea. Yeah,
Call me Mr. Good Idea.
Yeah.
I will give you tons of good ideas and some great ideas. The only time you're going to get results from those are when you internalize and act on them. Otherwise, it'll remain good ideas forever. I went home and I actually bribed my oldest was like 6 or 7 at that time, and I gave her $100. I said that you memorize the 7 habits, and I said with one condition. I said at any time, day or night, night, school day, or weekend, on vacation or non-vacation, on Skype, phone, internet, anytime, day or night, if I ask you the 7 habits, if you miss one, you owe me a 20 back for every one of them that you miss. And I still waiting for her to miss one. And then one day, I go to her bathroom, and I see on the other side of the door what's written. The 7 habits. And I have my morning affirmations written in my shower, laminated. And I wonder if the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. I wonder where she learned that. So with that one thing, less is more. Less is more. If you go home right now, if you want to have an incredible life, just commit to reading the book. And why would you read my book when this is the book that is the #1 book of all times. Of all times, it's already been voted. And not only learn, but make a commitment to memorize it, so next time I catch you, you'll be able to do it. And you can teach your children and grandchildren. And as I said, today's not about the 7 habits, but I wanted to make that point so clear that I know is the killer of learning. And take it from a level that you take it to a next level of learning. Question?
Oh, no, I was going to ask you, are you going to give us $20?
$20? I will give you.
If we give you the 7 habits?
If you come, if that offer is on, yes,
was
anytime.
100.
It was more than 20. He was giving me 20, and you already missed the boat.
Oh.
And my background, what gives me the right to stand before you, and as I said, that I'll share with you my creed before anytime I go anywhere, so that you know, every morning when I wake up, this is the creed that I share, is my personal creed is to build true confidence through knowledge in the mind, honesty in the heart, and strength in the body, to keep friendship with one another, and to build a strong and happy community. Never fight to achieve selfish ends, but to develop might for right. Grandmaster June Reed, one of my mentors, gave me this creed, and I fell in love with it, everything about that creed that stands for. And I say to myself, I'm going to share with you, I want to live this creed every day.